Okay, let's see who we got this morning. Good morning, good morning. Alan, Angie, Austin, Billy, Bobby, Brad. How is it going, my man? I've been following your rock and roll career here. It's been good. Bruce, Cameron, Carolyn, Crystal. What a lovely crowd today. Jared, Jason, Jeremy, Kevin Hirsch, good morning. Looking good. Okay, well, we've got a beautiful crowd here. Close to 100 to start off the day. Some wonderful panelists. Great hot button topic. It's going to be a good one. Thank you so much for coming. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Growing the Future Productions live event. Saskatchewan Farmland. Is it peaking? Is it pausing? Or is it pulling back? We've got people that are joining us from all over Western Canada. Put it in the chat where you're joining from here today. And I wanted to tell people that are watching this on YouTube to please subscribe if you're just tuning into the channel for the first time. We're going to be having lots more conversations like this in the future. And this conversation is for you to have access to experts like we have on today in order to get some of your questions answered. Good morning, Chris Herman, Wayne Delensky from Edmonton, Russell Harold from Momart, Jocelyn Pultz from Bigger, Saskatchewan. The big question we're going to be talking about today is where do you think farmland values are headed? And with that, before I introduce my illustrious guests, I wanted to launch a little poll here. What did you think? What do you think? Are we going to see continued strength in Saskatchewan farmland? Are we going to see a plateau, or the possibility of a pullback? We're going to get to those participant questions here shortly, but I wanted to set the stage, and please put your question. Lauren Maurer from Grenfell, good morning. We want to get to your questions in the Q&A. We want to get to your comments in the chat. Please put them in at any time, but I wanted to set the frame for everybody here. And that is that back in January, we had hosted a webinar with Robert Angelic. We talked about the broader macro picture. Tightening capital conditions, interest rates in the global financial environment. That conversation really blew up. And it was basically his thesis was that capital is becoming more constrained globally. Farmland as an asset class remains structurally strong. But let's face it, since we've had that conversation, a few things have happened in the real world. And it was sort of reflective. And there's things going on like war and oil shocks and fertilizer shocks and commodity rallies. No small deals on planet Earth. But here's the thing, folks. In June of 2025, Trent Klarenbach, Klarenbach Research, released a long-form analysis looking at the last 100 years of Saskatchewan farmland values, hosted by the very handsome and talented Tim Hammond, who's on the call today. These two gentlemen, they blew up on YouTube. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It's 52,000 views. For a reason. It's a brilliant conversation. And if you're a technical analysis junkie like me, and you start talking about RSI indicators and Fibonacci retracements and Elliott wave structure, well, you kind of get, I don't want to get too explicit here, but you kind of get excited. And I was like, wow, and if you know history, the first person they called the god of trading, a fellow by the name of Hanma, in the 1700s, developed the candlestick chart, which is still used by traders all over the day. This man had brilliant insight into the rice market, which gave him a massive edge, made him a legend throughout history. And I hope that people are writing about Trent's life like they write about Hanma one day. We'll see. We'll see. But even as recent as the 70s, people were thinking technical analysis is a little bit of voodoo. But that's where this conversation is interesting, because we have a technical analysis master on the call, and we have somebody who's sort of on the floor, so to speak, of the markets, who's getting that pulse that you can, talk to today about what they're seeing. And I want to know from you what you're seeing in the market. But that kind of leads me to our guests here this morning. And so we have Trent Klarenbach, who's our featured guest, who analyzes markets through technical structures and long-term data. He's the first person that I'm aware of that has physically charted farmland, and the results were a little bit shocking. We're going to talk about that today. Good morning and welcome, Trent Klarenbach, Klarenbach Research.
Well, I got to work on my intros for my podcast.
I love that. What was it? It's something geographical. It's about from the heights of this to the depths of that.
Yeah, it doesn't quite compare to your intros for sure.
Oh, come on, Trent. Well, hey, I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I'm honored to have you as part of this conversation. And it's going to be great. Thanks for coming on. That means a lot. And Tim Hammond, founder and CEO of Hammond Realty, is on the front lines of Saskatchewan farmland market every day, tracking listings, talking to buyers and sellers, and negotiating real transactions. Who would know better about farmland values than a realtor in the heat of the battle? Welcome to the show, Tim Hammond.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm excited to have this conversation with the two of you, and to get feedback too from everyone that's joining us.
Oh, perfect. Did I have my video off during that?
You did.
You did, yeah.
Wow. That was like mystery, Dan. That's kind of funny. I'm not sure where I hit that button, but we're all good. I'm here now. But everybody got the audio, so that's good. So I also want to give a big shout out to Tim, who's coming on as a platform partner for Growing the Future Productions. We're going to be doing a lot of really interesting conversations in the future. And if you have anything that you want us to cover regarding Tim's area of expertise, which is vast, he just got invited to talk about AI, and I was, pretty impressive. You're using AI extensively too in your life, hey Tim?
Yeah, day in, day out. What was it, at Christmas time? Chat GPT asked me, hey, do you want to report on kind of what you did this year? And I'm like, sure, yeah, why not? So it said, you're in the top 3% of adopters out of everyone in it. You are in the 1% of users because you had 26,500 messages in 800 different threads. And I was like, well, I guess I am using it a lot. So I just find it so powerful. It's actually, I've learned more in the last year than I think I did in the previous 10 years because it's accelerating and expanding my ability to learn. And it's actually kind of retraining my brain how to learn and how to solve problems.
Well, that sounds like a topic in and of itself. And we had some neighbors come over in Arizona, and the young fella, mom and dad's neighbors, he was building one of these data centers in the middle of the desert where you'd think it's so hot. How do they cool it? But you could throw a handkerchief in the air and the air pressure so high it would float. But we digress. We're here to talk about Saskatchewan farmland, not AI taking over the world, but we'll be talking about that more. So let's just look at our poll quickly here. Where did it go? Did we lost it somewhere? Can you guys see the oh no, it's down here. I got so many windows. So we had 22%. Could you guys guess this, Tim? Could you guess this preemptively? What percentage would think continued strength versus a plateau or the possibility of a pullback? Are you seeing this?
No, I don't see it.
Continued strength, 22%.
Right.
A plateau, 43%.
Okay.
It's kind of in the middle. Or the possibility of a pullback, 35%.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
let's get into technical analysis versus the real world. And Trent, your charts from last June. I mean, it was the art of a contrarian at its best. I thought that was brilliant because at that time, let's face it, in June of 2025, no one was saying it. But you looked at over 100 years of Saskatchewan farmland values, and then you actually applied some very sophisticated analysis tools to it. What was the most surprising things that those charts revealed to you at that time?
Well, I'll start off. I guess I got to give Kevin Gunn from Tyner credit for being the catalyst for this for my study. He really was. He was my nudger and encouraged me to look at it deeply. So, yeah. Well, what was interesting about it, or what it just to me, it just displayed how it's a textbook example of technical analysis in Saskatchewan. It's the most technical chart that I've looked at, and I've done probably 3 or 4 different land value studies. And it's really interesting how, when you go down technical analysis, you see there's trend lines, there's there's a resistance often acts as support, and we saw that on that chart, and it was just, wow, this is actually incredible how technical it is. And you can see signs of trends, and it really shows the emotions that have played out over the last hundred and some years in the marketplace, which is how all these markets are driven. It's by human emotions. So,
Were you surprised to see that it looks much like every other chart of almost everything else on planet Earth?
well, I, yeah, but I just believe that all these markets behave in the same manner, and that's because our human behavior just remains unchanged. And but yeah, it was interesting to see it for sure. I didn't expect it to be this technical.
Do you have uh like the thesis summary sort of thing? I think I could probably, we didn't prepare this, but I can maybe bring that chart up, bring your video up. Put in the chat whether you've seen it, yes or no. Have you seen this video? Um, I'm gonna bring that. Or do you have the chart that you could share with us, Trent? Because you should share what the thesis is there, just in summary.
Um, yeah, I might need a minute here to get.
Why don't you give your summary, and I will get up this thing and screen share here, and go from there.
To get to where you want to get to with that attitude.
Oh, that was your.
So,
What
Dan,
is the
what
thesis?
exactly are you asking of me here for the
What
summary?
is what was the thesis of what you saw on the chart, or what was the summary of farmland values, where they are, how it overbought, or where they are in the trend,
Oh,
etc.
okay. So, yeah, what I did is I applied a couple different really simple technical analysis tools and some trend lines on there, and I looked at the relative strength index, which is an indicator that measures the speed and the price movement and how fast it moves, basically a momentum indicator.
Yeah.
And and as anyone would know, that there's no one style of technical analysis, and any indicator on their own isn't reliable. But when you start to see indicators line up, then you can develop some strength in your conviction of what could happen in the future. And it's a game of probabilities. So anyone who gets predictive in life usually has negative results. But so it's a game of probabilities. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, you can see what happens when. So on that chart, I have the relative strength index down in this bottom panel in blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the black line is the price line. Yellow lines obviously are trend lines. And what I noticed there, when we've had an elevated RSI above 70, which is considered to be overbought. So little reference to that, little background, and provide some context. Whenever you hear of a commodity or asset in the marketplace is overbought, I would say 9 times out of 10 they're referring to the relative strength index. It's commonly used. It's the RSI. It's commonly used. It's kind of a low level indicator of overbought because it can stay overbought for an awfully long time above that 70 value. And the top end of that scale is 100. So when we've had overbought conditions and the price pulls back, you can see faintly on that chart. It
Mm-hmm.
certainly talks about in the study is that red dotted line is the 2-year exponential moving average. So it's a moving average that puts more emphasis on the previous year than the year 2 years prior. So in cases where we've had the elevated RSI and we've crossed below that 2-year exponential moving average, it's led to, I would describe as significant retracements in the price. So an example of that, well, when he broke below the RSI back in 1922, that eventually led to a 54% drop. 68, we had the elevated RSI in 68 of 85. That was a 22% drop in value, roughly. And then in 81, the RSI price dropped below the RSI in 82, and that was a 60%. So you start looking at these indicators. So you have an elevated RSI, and then you look for signs of a trend change. And a good measurement of a trend change is how the price is reacting to the moving average. And if we're below a moving average, below a declining moving average, we have to assume that trend's going to continue. And I would say it's been a fairly accurate indicator of where the price is going to go in the future. So.
Yeah, Tim, I see you kind of nodding your head, but when you see a chart here of land values that can go down by 50% for 12 years at a time, if somebody was using that in a predictive conversation, it'd be heresy. But here it is. This happened. This isn't conjecture. This is the real world as far as what's happened in the past. It doesn't say what's going to happen in the future definitively. But what's your take on that? Like a 12-year drop and half 50% drop?
Oh yeah, I mean when Trent first showed this to me, I mean it was a snapshot of 100 years of Hammond Farms Limited. Like I don't farm, but my family farms, and how it just aligned not only with the values, but kind of the challenges that they had through there. Like our family came from Ireland. It started farming in 1917, and my great grandfather basically threw the keys at my grandfather in 1933 and said, if you take over the debt, you can have it, right? And so land values had fallen half, and he said, just take it over. And so they had started farming then, and they exited about 71. It's funny, these lines are almost coincide with transitions in the Hammond family farms. And then my dad, kind of the third generation, he's ridden a couple of these waves in here. And what spoke to me is just about the emotion that kind of goes along with it. So yes, it is based on farmland values, but it's really the emotions that kind of drive it up and drive it down that really are reflected in there. So it really spoke to me. It captured 100 years in one snapshot, and I instantly connected with it.
Well, and what really struck me is the power of that channel and how overbought we are. And maybe in some universe and technical analysis, we're at a further breakout and markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent if you're going to short this bad boy, which, I mean, it doesn't trade on a commodity market like everything else. But man, when we're not even charting these things, you wouldn't even know it. Like if you went to buy a piece of land today, you aren't bringing this up at the kitchen table over your Wheaties and saying, honey, well, I think we might be at the top of the chart. I don't know if I should buy that piece. Nobody's done this, right? Is that fair? I mean, who's looked at this before they bought a piece of land?
I don't think it's been done prior to June of last year.
Well, it's your conjecture that it has never been done prior. I think it's really functional. So, and I'm curious what everybody thinks about that. But the cool part is, I guess we do have somebody who's on the ground seeing what's going on. And Tim, what are you thinking and seeing and hearing and feeling on the ground as far as rumbling since? Well, I think January was a little bit of a sea change. That conversation was. Let's be fair. Robert's thesis is that we're still bullish, and there's lots. We're all still really fundamentally bullish long term on farmland. It's still. If you're farming in the trenches, no matter how bad it gets, if you can survive, you're still cash flowing the best real estate on planet Earth. Let's be real, especially in Saskatchewan, where by capita, those individuals are the richest people on planet Earth. Just got richer with the discovery of aluminum in Tisdale. The list goes on, right? Uranium, precious metals, farmland, Saskatchewan, farm boys, still the greatest export to planet Earth known to mankind, which I'm one. But what are you seeing on the ground, Tim?
Well, it's funny that the survey that you just did, that's exactly what I am seeing. So I'm going to characterize it as a split market. So good land in a good area is still going up. There's still great demand for that. Average land in an average area, it's struggling. It is going sideways, and in some cases, it's actually going down. So people ask, is land going up? Yeah. Is it going down? Yeah. There's these kind of mixed transactions kind of in the marketplace. And, I haven't seen a mix like this kind of since I started, like in 2002, when it was trying to decide if it wanted to move up or not. So I find it very, very interesting anyways.
Yeah, we got another poll here. It's very similar to your point. Where are you seeing What are you seeing in the local farmland market right now? Land is still very competitive with multiple bidders. The market feels steady but not as aggressive. I'm starting to see some softening in prices. I'm not sure. I'm watching the market. And then if you're really out there on the spectrum, I'm selling my farm and I'm going hodl on Bitcoin is one of the options. I don't know. Tim, are you a big Bitcoin guy? Are you?
Do you know what? I love the premise of I love the whole blockchain idea and I love it, but I have not bought Bitcoin. I'd stick to gold over top of Bitcoin.
And if you're a reader of the Klarenbach research report, you got told when to go short, and he's still thinking 30. We're at 60. But Andrew, did you want to come on and chat, or did you just inadvertently put your hand up? I can check in with you here. If anybody wants to come on and chat, I have no problem with that. I just need to go to participants. Andrew, did you want to come on and say something? I'm going to allow you to talk. This is what happens to people that put their hands up. Andrew, you're on live with us? You got your hand up? You want to unmute and you got something to share? Or if not, we'll disable talking shortly here. We've had, enthusiastic folks that raised their hand, but didn't know what button they're pressing. But inventory. Let's talk inventory. Let's go there. So obviously since January, there's been a lot of coffee shop talk. A few things hit the funny pages there about this and that. And what are you seeing in farmland inventory? You were when we were talking about this shortly after the Angelic webinar, you were going on a cruise and you're like, oh, I say that as soon as I go away, everybody, a little bit of free days and everything, the world's got to explode here. Yeah, I don't know if you spent your whole they don't have the connect. They have the connections on the boats now. Starlink. Thanks to Elon Musk, you can't get away anywhere on the planet now.
Yeah, no, you're connected all the time now. So yeah, no, I kind of, prior to the end of January, I was kind of thinking, I'm a little surprised more land hasn't hit, the market, and then it did kind of hit the market, right? And so it kind of surged up. And, if I just use, kind of numbers of farms for sale or land for sale, it doubled the inventory, right? But you got to kind of keep it in perspective too, is that, if there were 300 farms up for sale, that's one per RM, right? So really, if you're a buyer looking for land, you're struggling to kind of find farmland. So yes, it is trending up. And most people wouldn't notice it. We notice it because we're looking at it day in, day out, right? So far, the demand seems to be kind of chewing it up, depending on the quality of the land, right? Better land, it's moving. Average land, we're struggling, right?
Yeah, and I think there was, I guess one metric is, the rate at which there's liquidity in the market available, like how long it takes for a listing to sell and how many bidders there are. And it's just, in commodities and the stock market, what's the buying pressure? Has that been a change too, a sea change too, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure in terms of days to sell, but I'll tell you, like on our tenders, where we open it up, we give everybody an opportunity to make an offer. We feel it's really fair for the community. So, 2 or 3 years ago, we would get 10 offers, right? And the top 3 or 4 would be very close together, right? And so just solid supports for those prices. But what we're seeing now is instead of getting 10 offers, we're getting 2 or 3. And the top bid is still really high. It might even be setting a record, but the spread between the top bid and the second highest bid is 5, 10, 15%. And so, like I've always said, land's only worth as much as what the second highest bid is, right? If you had to turn around and sell that land, what would you get for it? And so we're seeing that spread, that depth kind of disappear a little bit. So when you look at titles, yeah, that it's sold at this price, but it was super hard to get to it, and it's a little more fragile than what people might expect.
Well, I'm just going to share the results here of this local market condition poll. 30% said land is still very competitive with multiple bidders. 52%, the market feels steady but not as aggressive. 12% is only 12, 1 in 10, starting to see some softening in prices. 10% said, I'm not sure, I'm just watching the market. And there is that 1% who said, I'm selling my farm and going hodl on Bitcoin. So, yeah, I don't know who's going to have the yacht at the end. You know, it's a toss up, the Bitcoin hodlers or the farmland owners. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All what people think things are worth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this doesn't surprise me because this is what we're seeing in the marketplace. And it depends where you are and what kind of land you got and who your neighbors are. And so we're just seeing a wide variance of things. And it's the first time we've seen kind of a spread like this, and I think at the end of this year, when Farm Credit says where our farmland values it will probably report a bit of an increase. But you really have to drill down on where that increase came from, right? So,
yeah. Well, on that, I'm talking about the different things underneath the hood. Trent, you're an expert in all this, and you were tuned in to the Angelic webinar too. And so Robert was talking about a tightening of capital conditions globally. So, Trent, from a technical perspective, what are the factors behind this long-term price movement? If you're looking at that chart and you're seeing it's overbought, and I don't know if you are technically predicting a downturn or not. You haven't said so quite yet, but you probably have to weigh in at some point on this, or they can watch the video. But what do you think is going on underneath the hood with all the different pieces moving in the market here from a technical point of view?
Well, I mean, I'm a trend follower, so the trend continues up. We haven't seen that pullback yet, and it remains to be seen if it actually happens or not. And then the overbought term, RSI, I don't, it's not really, it's part of my nomenclature, but I don't really use it that often because it's, even on my chart there, it's been overbought territory for 15, 14, 13 years, right? So that's a long time, right? So, but what it is, it helps, it's one of those yellow flags, a caution flag. Okay, there's a caution flag here. Let's see if there's any roadblocks here, any other catalysts. So as far as catalysts go, I did that video of I shared 7 ideas of catalysts that could contribute to potential pullback, and it could be any one or any combination of them. Robert talked about the tightening credit, which is certainly one of those catalysts, right? So profitability is another one.
Yeah, margins have dramatically changed since this massive historical bull market that farming has been in. And I think the issue is that a lot of the inputs and things that are required to grow a crop have gone up dramatically and not come down. But the commodities have softened greatly, and it's a hard balance where I think a lot of farms are projecting break even on average across the prairie. So we did have some comments here that I'm going to share, but I'm going to share it in a general way out of respect for folks that may or may not be on the call and just in general. And it's about, I guess, some of the larger farmer updates. And Wayne Delensky's asking, I'm wondering if the larger farmers are changing the environment for buying land. I'm wondering if the larger farmers are changing the environment for buying land. Small farmers looking for the best deal are having trouble buying versus the large landholders. My concern is, what is this doing to smaller parcels of land? I mean, when's the last time we had a buyer market? Who wants to take this one, Tim?
The last time we had a buyer market was the early 2000s, right? And that's when I got into real estate privately, right? And I remember having 70 listings at a time, right? I'd get a listing and I'd phone the neighbor, hey, do you want to buy it? He's like, no, but I want to sell. Can I throw mine in, right? And so, okay. So, and that just kind of propelled until I got frustrated. Like, I don't think anybody's going to buy, but that was the last time that we were kind of like that. And then about 2004 or 5, it started to improve. We had a couple of, dry years in there too, and it was tougher, but that was the last time.
Dallas Klepstein is saying, I grew up as a kid in the 80s. I just don't see that happening again. Farms are so leveraged. The banks can't afford the market to collapse. Milk money and potato money seems they will pay whatever it takes. Makes it almost impossible for a first-gen guy to buy land. Do you see it that way, Tim?
Well, land has never been more expensive, and particularly kind of in Saskatchewan. Like when you take a look at the affordability index, like Farm Credit's got this amazing index. So they measure what your loan payment is over top of what you can generate on a per acre basis. And so they kind of plot that. And we have not been this high since 1991. And high is really in affordability, right? And so what's also kind of interesting about it is when you look at Western Canada, Saskatchewan has the highest index, which means we are the least affordable. And so, there is this perception that Saskatchewan holds the best value for land. And we did at certain times, right? But, just because that was the case in 2013, 2014 doesn't mean that that's the case today.
You're telling me that Saskatchewan farmland is not undervalued like it was, or at all?
No, when you take a look at Farm Credit's data, it's saying it is the most expensive or the least affordable out of the provinces. So the most recent data I've seen is 2024. I haven't seen the 2025 yet. I don't think they've posted it.
Trent, you should put that on that chart as juxtapose the affordability index on there. I think that'd be interesting, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're finding though that affordability is only one factor in the equation, and human sentiment in a lot of situations can override affordability for a period of time. So
we did have some comments here asking about the recent large farmland sales. I guess everybody can see that in the comments, but I don't know, Tim, if you wanted to comment. We had some inventory come onto the scene, and lots of folks are wondering, but where are you seeing, how did that shake out, or do you want to comment on that at all, Tim?
I really don't feel qualified to kind of comment on it because it's all been handled kind of privately, and they have their own strategy. And I mean, I understand that there is stuff selling. I don't know what price or how hard it was, or kind of what the process is. So so I really don't feel kind of qualified to add any value to this conversation at this point anyways.
No, I totally appreciate that. So that kind of closes the book on that. I guess I don't think any of us are really can speak to that. If Tim can't, I sure as heck can't. I'm just a podcaster, man. Don't ask me stuff that's really hard. Trent's smart, but I don't know if he,
I just look at charts.
Pretty pictures, man. Pretty pictures. Please keep the questions coming. I don't know if I missed anything in the Q&A. I'm going to check if I got anything in the Q&A here, but isn't farmland always hard to buy though? And don't you always wish you bought more? Like Tim, you're talking about how you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, and you do the dangerous opportunity strengths question on strategic coach there. You're Dawson every day. If we're meeting here from 3 years from now, like, wouldn't you wish that you bought more land even though it's high?
Yeah. And you know what? And I'll give the example. My dad bought land. He bought 3 quarters in 1981 at $80,000 a quarter, right? And that felt hard. And that felt like that land wouldn't pay for itself. He still has that land, right? And so for 27 years, it maybe didn't look like a great investment, but he didn't buy it as an investment. He bought it as an input. He needed land to farm, right? And if you're going to farm, you're going to produce grain or whatever, you need land to go with it. And so you either buy it or you rent it. And so really, I think if your goal is 40 or 50 years long, and as long as you can, service the debt on it, then I think you can buy at the top of the market and it still will work. I mean, obviously you want to buy at the bottom of the market, but that's not always the opportunity for you too. So, and I've heard this for 35 years, land will never pay for itself, yet somehow it does.
Well, let's just say that we're overbought, and let's just say that technical analysis isn't going to, prove to be wrong in this case. And let's just say there's going to be a pullback. How would you know? What would that look like? When should you start buying the dip? And with what? Hopefully you have some money for the dip. Do you got some money for the dip there, Tim? You've been waiting, dry powder?
I could convert my gold into farmland. So
you'd have to dig it up in the forest, though.
Right. Yeah.
The tobacco tins in the forest.
Trent, maybe you comment on that first.
Well, your time frame is everything on this, right? So if you are young like your father was in 1981, it took 33 years for that land to get back to its same inflation adjusted value to have the same purchasing power. And if you're young and you need it for your operation and you can survive those 33 years, then great, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't survive those 33 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people weren't able to. You had some experience of that coming out of university.
Yeah.
Some people, I remember when I graduated university, there was no encouragement for me to go farming. Like it was go to university, get a good job. Of course, I guess I'm a bit of a contrarian. I thought I should go farming, and
Just had to disagree. Hey, you just couldn't agree.
yeah, I just can't. Yeah, yeah, I can probably might explain some relationship problems, but
Yeah, I don't know if we got time to get into that today, Trent.
yeah, we don't want to talk about my.
Let's put a pin in that and circle back.
Maybe I'll just lay on the couch here and tell you all my problems. But yeah, anyway, so that was a tough time. I saw a lot of people exit the market, and then we saw a bit of a turnaround in the late 90s, and then some other people, exited the market in the mid first 5 or 6 years of the 2000s. And, I was one of them. And there's a saying in the market, what doesn't scare you out will wear you out. And I think a lot of people thought, look at this land has gone up 10% over the last 30 years. You just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there's other ways to, you haven't got a return on it outside of some rents, which were, which is something, but it wasn't moving the needle for anybody. So, yeah, I mean, if you're 60 or 70 and the land starts to, if the land starts to correct itself, you might want to reassess. If you have the time frame to wait this out another, 7 or 30 years or 46 years maybe, right?
A little bit depressing. I mean, when I look at this chart, we think about Bitcoin, right? This is a great example because at 120K, it was going to 1 million. And you're like, oh, I got to get some Bitcoin. I got to get around and figure it out. I got to buy some Bitcoin. Now it's 70. Nobody wants it. It's going to 0. And, so I'm wondering what the landslide, if there ever was one, and I'm not saying that there is one, imminent or, and I think there's a lot of buyers that would continue to step in on farmland. Well, they should, but I'm just thinking like, what does a 10 or 15 year decline of 50% look like for people that are in the game when you're already like on Thursday, we're having a webinar talking about farming for what? 4 producers lined up. Not all of them are saying like there's nothing in it this year, but very little ROI for the capital that's invested on a $20 million farm when you're looking at making 200K. If you get a damn good yield that your agronomist says, well, we're going to need the rain. What the hell be that? So any comments on that?
Yeah, in our video, like I asked Trent, like he said, we're approaching this. And I said, are you seeing a sell signal? And he said, no, I don't see a sell signal. It's a point of interest. And I said, what does trigger a sell signal? He says, if you move across that line, which at this point might represent like a 5% drop in prices. So technically speaking, then that's a sell signal. So and what I'm seeing, even from this poll here today, right, that's a shift in sentiment. And I like to think I know lots about farmland, but really I'm an expert in behavior as it relates to farmland, right? I see people, pay premiums and sell for discounts because of the emotions involved. And that's not wrong. But the farmland market, it is emotional, even though we like to think it's academic and make perfect decisions. People do make perfect decisions, but it's perfect for them in their situation, right? The neighbor might not look at it and see it that way, but for them it is. So I just think that once behavior starts to change, then it's going to carry momentum, right? I think the biggest, not concern, but thing that I'll be watching is people who have already retired from farming. Like there's been a trend over the last 5, 10, 15 years where when people retired from farming, they rented out their land. They never sold it, right? And so they hung on to it. And what a tremendous investment, right? It's up 400, 500%. Plus you've got a dividend out of that land over that period of time. But if farmland starts to drop, Now all of a sudden you're getting a 2 or 3% return on your land and you're losing 5% a year on appreciation or 10%. All of a sudden you can kind of wipe out your returns pretty quick. And and really these retired farmers, now the land is not an input. We don't need it to produce. We're looking at this as an investment. They may say it might be time to get out. So I think that there's going to be this land that's been held off the market for the last 10, 15 years. It's the land that's going to come to the market first if we start to go down.
Trent, we need a retired farmers chart ASAP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can probably do the demographics, right? That's probably give you an idea to support Tim's hypotheses. So
I love it. Since we're on the conversation, I did put out a poll about technical analysis. Trent, does this surprise? Can you see it yet?
I can't see the results of it. No.
Okay. I'll show you right away. So we had a technical poll. Do you believe? I think we got half of people participated. Thank you. I'm going to end it and I'm going to share it. It's good enough for horseshoes and hand grenades for our purposes. Tell me if this is shocking, Trent. Tell me if you're shocked. Do you believe in technical analysis has value when looking at farmland values? Yes, charts reveal important signals, 20%. Somewhat useful, but not definitive, 64%. No, farmland is different from other markets, 16%. And what's technical analysis? It was 2%. That went down by 50%. Now it's 1%. Does that ring a bell?
Well, it's certainly what I would expect. And in fact, the first two questions I'd have to check myself, right? They reveal important signals. But there's nothing definitive in this world. That's one thing that I've learned is it's very difficult to be deterministic in a probabilistic world. And people want to know what's going to happen, but it's a game of probabilities. And the technical analysis can give some indication of what those probabilities will be in the future. So, but it's not definitive.
What about death and taxes?
I guess I could chart that. That might be definitive.
It's 100%. Yeah.
All right, we got some great questions coming in. Please join the conversation. If you put your hand up, I'll call on you, even if you didn't mean to. But Jocelyn Poltz is asking: majority of farmers I talk to are focusing. I wonder what your business is, Jocelyn. Majority of farmers I talk to are focusing on importance of scale and looking at operational efficiencies when looking at purchasing land. Interesting, yeah. And I was thinking about your cap rate too. When you bought land would make a big difference on your ROI. That I think is a barrier to entry to lots of investors. But anyways, are you hearing this, Tim, from potential buyers that they're looking at more at their operation than the economic factors?
I would say, like on the credit side of things, like people are cautious, right? Like looking at what the price of land is and what it's going to cost to finance it. And I'm actually kind of starting to see them shift from maybe expansion isn't the strategy, maybe just getting stronger is the strategy, right? So then we focus on improving our operation as much as kind of expanding it. So, and I think that's just kind of a shift when things get tight, right? When things are going good, we're optimistic, and the thing is we want to get bigger, right? But when things start to tighten up, we're like, okay, no, we just want to get better at what we're doing and kind of preserve what we're doing. And so that's what I see as kind of a shift and I think people are being pretty responsible about credit and how they're using it anyways.
Yeah. Well, Grandpa Aberhart never even believed in credit, and the old man did, though. And you don't get to, be size that we are today. And I love the point about in the old days when we didn't have banks, guess what we did? We just went across the river and took it. Much less polite ways than sitting with your banker and having a cup of tea. Great questions coming in. 140 on the call. Things are heating up. Let us know what you're thinking. Don't be afraid to put it in the chat. I'll try and get to everybody here. Lyndon Maurer is asking, has Trent done any technical analysis involving rental rates and the spread between rent and land value mortgage payments? I have the last poll here on this, I promise. But I wanted to ask everybody too. And Trent, while you're asking that, I have a poll on this, and this is my last poll for the day. But go ahead. Go ahead, Trent.
Well, I haven't. I'd be certainly interested in seeing that data, and maybe that farm credit maybe Farm Credit's done a chart with that, Tim. Would that align with what you said on the affordability index of Farm Credits, or?
I don't know. I think they have started to kind of track rental rates a little bit more, but I'm not sure that they have any kind of reports that they feel kind of comfortable kind of publishing. I'm not 100% sure anyways, but I don't think any studies for sure just relating land values to rental rates anyways.
Yeah, rental rate. I haven't seen the rental rate data that's yet that I think would be valuable, but maybe it's out there somewhere.
I'm getting some now. We're getting some now. It's happening right now. Feel that tickle? That's the data coming in.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well it's still coming. Yeah, no, it's people are still voting. What would be your over under, guys, on if rental rates are increasing or not, or they're holding steady or softening?
I would be like 100%, well, not maybe not 100%, but 80%, just barely holding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. 43% said rental rates are increasing. 40% said rental rates are holding steady. 11% said rental rates are starting to soften. 10% I'm not sure. And 0% said land is going follow and unrented like it was in southeastern Saskatchewan. I started selling sprayers and everybody was berating me at the trade show because they couldn't afford a tire on the high clearance sprayer I was trying to sell. I remember those days vividly. As a 23-year-old man, it was kind of scary. Tim, what are you thinking?
I mean, I'm just speaking from our experience. So we manage probably 80,000 acres for investors, sophisticated investors. We've done this for 10 years. One of our, services that we do is we negotiate rental rates. And so every year we have another kind of tranche of leases that come up that have to be renegotiated. And this year, this January, this February, we will be doing good if we maintain what we got last year on average. Sure, some will go up, but some are coming down. And so that's the first time ever for us.
Yeah, we had some more questions about this. Are you seeing correlation of rent prices to land sale prices? I think that you answered that. How do you figure out fair rental prices for farmland and pasture based on the price fluctuations?
I would say like 2 years ago when land was going up, rent was still going up.
Right.
And I kind of saw rental as a substitute for purchasing too, right? We can't buy, we're going to rent it, we're going to bid to go get it, right? Or I can't afford to buy it, I'm going to rent it and I can afford to pay a little bit more. So if land values are moving sideways now and rents are moving sideways, then the last 2 or 3 years, maybe it is kind of correlated.
Bruce Chernoff is saying, what are you seeing? What are people seeing for rental rates? Put your rental rate in the chat. Put your rental rate in the chat. Let's go. Let's see this. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. I don't know what it is in Langeberg, but I think it's 150. What would it be, Tim, in Langeberg?
Yeah, it would be up there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember, to be fair, some of the land rent went up like higher than most people would have expected sooner, but sometimes to move ahead, if you're bullish on the future, what are you going to do? And if it's close, I mean, that's a lot of, let's face it, proximity. But Donald Larson says an interesting thing. Further on land rent, I rent some out and get less than 1% of land value. Am I stupid? Should I trade for gold?
I don't know about trading for gold. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not selling my gold though, but
no.
But this is what people who aren't operating their land are starting to say is like, man, I've done 1,200% over the last couple of decades, and now I'm only getting a 1% return. And if you're telling me I could start losing that value by 5 or 10% per year, maybe I should just sell it, right? And so, but a lot of people hang on to land for sentimental reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that too, right? So, yeah, you aren't the only one kind of thinking this right now.
Trent?
Well, I mean, if land values keep going up and I don't know if you really worry about the rental rate if it goes up 10% a year, right? But I guess you need the rental rate to cover taxes and all your costs. But land's been an incredible investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Well, create some wealth.
1%'s, maybe not something you strive for, but the asset went up 10%. I guess who cares?
Yeah. You look at what, the FCC reports on what land went up. Tim?
I'm just going to say, like, a big, weighting factor in an investor's decision to buy land is the appreciation, right? And they know they can only, right now they know they can only get, 2.5, 3.5% return, but they're banking on 10%, but a good chunk of that coming from appreciation. So if you remove that appreciation from that, then how does that affect how buyers respond or view this?
The other thing that I'm really thinking about quite a bit right now is like, where else do you build a bunker if you don't own land? It's awkward to just start digging on someone else's land.
Yeah.
Right. Mike Rain is saying farmland has long been a local market, at least for mid-sized producers up to a certain point, and then they reach operational thresholds. Then they choose to improve their efficiency, they drain better or work to figure out salinity, etc. Is it still largely a local game, picking up good pieces as these become available? Or are growers looking for that Texas A&M 15% growth per year target and will buy independent of the technical analysis or common sense? Whoa, great question.
I'm going to say that has shifted. 3 or 4 years ago, I would say they were, going gung ho, and it was almost easier to sell a $25 million farm than it was a $5 million farm, and there was that many people kind of lined up. But that's not the case today. So I think it is kind of shifting. I think it is shifting.
Yeah. Great question, Robert Arneson here, about does anyone have data on the percentage of farmland that is rented in Saskatchewan versus the US? It's around 40%.
Yeah, my understanding is roughly 2/3 of the land in Saskatchewan is owned by the operator. So 1/3 of it is owned by investors, which is 3%, 4%, and the other 30% is retired farmers and retired farm families who rent to the operators.
We have a couple of Western producer folks on here too. Rented farmland jumps 3.4 million acres in Saskatchewan from September 2nd of 2025. But yeah, the approximately 31% to 41% of farmland in Saskatchewan is rented. Mm-hmm. So you were incredibly accurate there on your analysis, Tim.
My gut action. That's my gut reaction.
Bingo. Anyway. Rick Ann said 100 on, I assume you're talking on the rent. Bruce Chernoff said $100 an acre in the Yorkton area. No Progi curtain premium there. Or Russell Harold says, are producers more apt to take the risk with rent versus purchases in this environment? That's a great question. It changes the equation, Tim and Trent, about renting versus owning. Yeah, big nod there, Tim.
Yeah, I think they will because it reduces your risk, right? And so even if you're renting land at 150, plus an acre, you're only locked in for 3 years, right? If this doesn't work out, you just move on, right? You're not committed to it for 20 years like you are if you purchase it, right?
Yeah, hear you. No, Neil has a big question here. Good question. Tim, you used to work in the lending market, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've experienced the days when credit restrictions and poor farm balance sheets took a lot of buyers out of the market. I don't know if that'd be the case today with the balance sheets. I think they're a lot stronger. But are you seeing a repeat of that scenario starting to creep into the market? Are aggressive buyers becoming unqualified buyers? Have farmers place bids and had the bank kill the deal?
There's a lot of questions in there. I would say no. No, I haven't seen banks kill the deal yet. I would say that the ag lenders are still really positive on agriculture. And if you want money, I think they'll give it to you. They will look really close and really scrutinize the cash flow on it, but I think they're pretty positive. And I think overall, the balance sheet of agriculture is really good, right? Like there's a lot of equity kind of in the land, and the loans are well secured by the lenders. If we start to drop, right? I think we could drop 15-20% and we'd be okay if we start there, if we stop there, right? My concern isn't, whether we would drop 10 or 20%. My concern is where we go from there, because if for some reason we go below that 20%, then all of a sudden loans become undersecured, and it changes the dynamics. And then I could see it dropping down to 60%, because that's what happened last time. That's what happened with the subprime mortgages, right? Only they were 100% leveraged, right? As soon as they dropped 1%, they're undersecured, and it went like that, right? So, is it probable? I don't think so. Is it possible? Yes, that could happen.
Well, and those things tend to cascade, right? It's a bit of a domino effect. And so you're saying there's probably 15% volatility baked in where some of those sort of bank concerns wouldn't trigger.
Yeah, I think we're okay for 15-20% kind of. If it did drop that, I think we're okay. I think we can withstand it. It's where we go from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it comes back to your timeline, like Trent so wisely said earlier in the conversation. So, Michael Muscovy, my good friend, how are you? We rent for $100 an acre and hope to profit $40 an acre. That's not good for the farmers. Well, sometimes we wish things are a little bit different, be it the weather, the markets, or various other people's, positions on their attitudes. But we can't control everything. We can only work on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. Double T's. A couple more questions here. Are institutional investors like insurance companies pulling back?
I would say, we do have investors and, sophisticated ones still looking at farmland, but not nearly at the same level that we did kind of 10, 15 years ago anyway. So there is still some interest, but not at the level that it once was.
Great answer there. And then Wayne Truman is asking, Tim, are you seeing rental agreements that include a clause to make sure the land is not being mined, i.e. replenishing nutrients as they're being extracted? Oh, that's like my old business. Love it.
Yeah, typically there is, some sort of clause in there to address it. The question is, do you enforce it, right? And do you inspect it to make sure that that's the case, right? So I think a lot of agreements have it, but are they enforcing it?
Well, this is really interesting one. Final question, I think, since we want to wrap this up at the top of the hour. Tim Muirfield is asking, what percentage of land in Saskatchewan is free and clear? I have the answer here. Do my esteemed guests want to take a stab at this?
I'm going to say 40% is free and clear.
Wow. What do they call that in curling when you put that on the button? On the first draw?
Okay.
Trent, I don't even know. 42.1%.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Can you imagine the wealth? Can you imagine? I mean, how many dollars is that?
Well, I think the Saskatchewan farmland, all of it is valued at 180 billion. I think if you take a look at all the land in Saskatchewan with the buildings and infrastructure.
You got to say that with your pinky finger, like the Austin Powers villain.
Well, 40% of that is 180. I can't do math.
Oh, jeers.
I'm going to say 65 billion free and clear, right?
Let's party. Free and clear. Let's party. In regards to the boomers, Tim, are you seeing an increase in volume of sales? And Trent, how do you use volume in technical analysis? Great question. Is it a valuable indicator that carries weight? So, Tim, are you seeing an increase in volume of sales? And then we'll get to Trent.
No, the boomers are not selling. That's the challenge. They are hanging on to their assets, and not only farmland, but houses, businesses, commercial real estate. And so, in Saskatoon, we're saying we need more houses. We don't need more houses. We we need the transfer of houses, which is what we're saying in farmland too. We need the transfer of farmland. So I'm going to say no, but they can't live forever, right? And there's going to be a change. That'll be part of what affects the future market.
Boomers can't live forever. That's probably the most controversial thing that's been said on this show so far. Are you sure? Because I kind of see my dad riding Harley in Arizona forever.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan.
No, not at all. Not at all. Sorry, we kind of cut you off there, but we'll get to Trent's final word on this. Trent, do you use volume as a technical analysis indicator? Does it carry weight?
It's a secondary indicator for me. My philosophy is only price pays, and I think we saw a bit of that. We see that in overnight markets, for example, in the futures markets and different things. And if I had volume in farmland, I think that'd be very interesting to me. What price did this sell at? And I think that'd be great information for me. And it'd be a it'd be really I would love to have that information. Yeah.
And where are you going with all this, Trent? Like you were going to continue plotting, or do we new different charts, or?
Yeah, I think there's value in providing an update. I mean, the update might not change. It's like if land values had gone up in 2025, I'll just update my study, and my hypothesis remains the same at the moment. So,
And you
and
had a
it's
really
not
big announcement that you were going to make. Did you want to make it today?
no.
So you folks are going to have to subscribe.
Yeah, no, I got I think an interesting project, so but
I
I'm not
know.
gonna announce it today.
Well,
So
folks, he wouldn't even tell me, and I'm in the inner circle. I like to tell myself.
yeah, you are. Yeah.
So I put Trent's. I was going to say Clint. That's not. That would be a mix of. Anyways, Trent Klarenbach's about information. There's a link there. One more question here, Tim. How is the next generation viewing farmland as an asset? Will they become massive sellers when the boomers pass it on? Interesting.
So I can't tell you how many times somebody's come into the office and they're 80 years old and they're like, Tim, I'm not selling my land, but I want to know what it's worth because the kids want it. And we're going to do some estate planning and stuff like that. And so I'm okay. I'll give you this valuation. And then 3 or 4 years later, when he passes away, the kids come into the office and they're like, I told him I didn't want it, right? But now I've got this land. What's it worth, Tim? What are my options? So I think it depends on the family, obviously, but I think families really struggle to have this conversation where do you really want the land, or do you want the land as a legacy, or do you want the family as a legacy?
Sounds like another episode. But this episode is over. Just due to time, and everybody's time so precious. I'm really honored everybody would come on and spend time with us. I hope that we delivered on the promise and provided value. And I especially want to thank Trent for being a guest. And I want to thank Tim and his whole team at Hammond Realty for being part of the Growing the Future platform and helping us have these conversations. And Mike Rain says, great cast. Thanks for doing it. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful. And Tim, I think we have a lot more conversations ahead of ourselves. Trent, we will be doing lots more stuff together, I'm sure. Thank you. Great information from Wayne Delansky. Millie Mantika says, fabulous insights. Thank you. Donald Larson says, great info with 3 exclamation marks. Lauren Maurer says, informative. Appreciate the expertise. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Any final thoughts, Tim?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation and to interact with everybody and just to ask questions, right? There's no perfect answer out there, but we find the perfect answer for ourselves by learning, right? And
Cool.
Being curious. And this is a great forum to do that. So thank you, Dan.
That's a heck of a bumper sticker. Trent, final words. Good job, guys. Neil Gasser.
Yeah,
Yep. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and and I think the message is we don't know what the future holds, but we want to share with least we want to share with the audience of what we're seeing to help them prepare to make better decisions. We, in terms of my farmland study, it's kind of contrary to the latest narrative around farmland, but, it's something to consider. Maybe you can make some better informed decisions because of it.
And for folks that want to get that, they can contact you directly, or is it public somewhere?
Yeah, they can, the free subscription to my newsletter will get that. It'll come to their inbox automatically. So
Sweet. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate both of you. And it was fun. It was enlightening. And I think it's a great sort of trajectory or story arc from what you guys started last June and then what we've been talking about with Robert. And just a note too that I'm talking with Scotiabank. I believe we're going to do a session similar, and we're going to have a wide variety panel. And yeah, they want to lend a bunch of money on the call, so you want to sign up, register for that because they're going to be giving super low rates. And I'm just so. They're going to inject a little liquidity in the market online there. I shouldn't say that, but it's probably against kind of internet regulation rules to say that. But I'll be in internet jail or something, or canceled on YouTube. You never know. But thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, everybody. Come on the call. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the funny pages soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye for now.